What's going on, guys? It's Alex again with another Axe Effects tutorial, and today we're going to be talking about the filter block, one that I've kind of mentioned about, I don't know, a couple times in the past videos, saying I'm going to kind of put this off until I get to this point. So all those times I told you about, oh, you got filters here, you got certain things to look at, certain different types of shapes and LFOs. Now's the time for me to kind of show you what's going on. All right, so let's jump right in. As always, notes on the right, mods on the middle. So we're going to be following this input to the send, to the return, to the out. This is my guitar block. That in block or into is going for my voice, and return to is also controlling my voice. So let's get right into it. So here's the filter. I'll turn this one on for you, and we're going to start off with just the most basic of the filters, basically. And we're going to work our way down all of these, and I'll tell you what they are, kind of describe what they do, and show you a little bit of what they're operating with. So an all pass is basically it's passing all the frequencies up to a certain point with a low cut and a high cut of a certain type. So, and the low cut and the high cut are operating on your signal directly, while the red curve here is your actual filter response. So when you put the feedback in, it modifies your actual signal by allowing the feedback to try to kind of operate on your signal. So as you can see, you increase the feedback, it tries to follow your curve a bit. And you change the frequency, it changes where this thing starts to cut off. So, and if you increase the order controls basically how many peaks. It's going to start kind of looking like a saw here. So if you increase it to 6, you got 6 peaks. And then so on and so forth. And then this thing moves it around. Feedback is going to make your blue line, which is your signal, adjust to it. So like this is going to sound a bit different than a normal signal, which would be simply this. Almost, there's no operation being done to it because there's no feedback. It's just a straight in, straight out. However, you throw that feedback in, do some negative feedback, increase the order, and that's what the ALLPASS is all about. So once again, frequency is kind of the center point of where it's operating on. The feedback is going to adjust how much signal is going back through this filter. And then the order is kind of telling you how many points you're going to see on this comb looking thing. And then the band pass, it allows only a certain band, which shows right here. It comes underneath this curve. The Q tells you how steep that hill is going to be. And then if you reduce the Q, you make the hill a little bit wider. The gain does nothing on this one. But the frequency adjusts the midpoint. The order is how steep the hill is going to be. And so on and so forth. So if you wanted perhaps right there to be the most prominent in your signal, and that's what that does. That's what a band pass is. A band pass is only a certain band of frequencies. FB comb. So now we've got a comb filter, a feedback comb filter. That's what FB stands for. And then as you increase the delay and then the depth, you change basically what your comb is, your filter, or your filter's operating like a comb. But then as you increase the delay, it shifts your signal over. So if you've got no delay, then there's nothing that's being operated on inside this comb filter. Comb filter is just in and out, except you've got a little bit of a drop in gain, it seems. But then if you increase the delay, it creates a comb. You hear that? That's a feedback comb, and this is a feed forward comb. Similar thing, but it's just the opposite direction of the peaks, if you can see it. Like one's kind of it's just changing direction. And that's what these do. high pass. So basically you're blocking out all the low frequencies, allowing all the high frequencies to pass. That is the point of a high pass filter. You move this, you change where the highs start to come in. So if you drop this down to 20, it's basically an all-pass filter. But if you... let's see what it sounds like. Kind of sounds like a wah pedal, doesn't it? That's because all a wah pedal is basically one of these filters shifting back and forth. And we'll show you how to make something kind of like that pretty soon in this video. And that's what a high pass does. It allows all the high-end content to pass. Low pass is exactly the opposite. We'll get there in a second. High shelf. So a high shelf is basically allowing for a high frequency content to be raised. So this, of course, changes how steep the curve is. And then you can change where it is. So if you want to do a mid boost, that's kind of what that's doing. High shelf 2, a little bit different. That's what that does. So you can keep on modifying these as you will. I'm just going to keep on going down. Low pass, exactly what you thought the opposite of high pass was. You're allowing low frequencies to pass in. This is actually one of the most used filters in this for guitar applications, in my opinion. It's super useful. The Q creates this little bit of a knee. And, of course, gain does nothing on this one either. This one can sound real cool. So keep on going. Low shelf does the exact same thing. And so you can, reduce or, increase gain on certain frequencies. Of course, the low shelf and the high shelf can basically do the same thing, except this one has a little bit more of a downward, has like a lower knee. So it's like this one's a little bit more jagged than the one on the top. You can see that. Now these ones are about equal, a little bit steeper. So let's keep on going. Notch. So everything's passed except for a certain part. You're basically putting a little bit of a cliff where all that frequency content's going to fall off into. So once again, gain does nothing on this one. So and then of course fourth, more drops off. So that's what a notch filter does. A null is going to be well, I guess a null does nothing. Null is just nothing. I was expecting it to just kind of kill off a certain point, but that would be the point of a notch filter. So a null does nothing. A null is a null filter. It's not a filter. So peaking, you can kind of see what this is going to do with the shape. It's almost like a notch filter, except if you change the gain in the opposite direction, you have a little bit of a peak here. Again, this is going to create the steepness. Frequency shifts it. That's what that does. And of course, if you wanted to make a little bit of a mid boost, maybe drop the gain down a little bit, maybe make this a little bit wider. And then we get to peaking 2. You can see that this one is a little bit, can make it a little bit more jagged. Increase the fourth order, drop the gain a bit, and that's kind of like what this does. All right, so then we got finally at the tilt EQ. So this is going to change where that kind of initial slope is going to be. And then Gonna change the gain. You can just kind of, oh, let's see, which one do you want? You want a little bit more, a little bit less lows, a little bit more highs, or do you want a little bit more lows and a little bit less highs? That's what that's for. Fourth order is going to make the tilt a little bit more dramatic. Frequency is going to show where the tilt occurs. So that's what all of these kind of do. That's the shapes of what they are. So let's kind of get into what the LFO is used for in the filter module. So in this example, I've got a bandpass filter, right? And I've got the LFO enabled to a log, so it's kind of, you can kind of see that it's following this shape. High, low, kind of does that. But this is what it sounds like. And then once again, if we want to change this filter to a, let's see, let's not do comb. Let's do a low pass. Change the LFO rate up a little bit, maybe mod the frequency up a little bit further so it sweeps further in. And that's kind of what the LFO does with the filter module. You can tell kind of what it does, on or off, type. You've got all these different shapes, as I've shown you in different videos, but I'll show them again, kind of like a jagged sawtooth. And we can see how it moves when I change the shapes. Exponential stays high for less time, stays low more often. Log stays high more often, stays low less time. Random is going to just be random. Saw down. You can see what that looks like. This is actually a perfect demonstration of what's actually happening. Sine, very, it's the sine wave. It's perfect. Perfect oscillation. Square, back and forth. Trapezoid, that's a little bit jagged. And then triangle. Very linear back and forth, but has distinct cutoffs and cutbacks. So that is what's going on. That's kind of what's going on over there. And the last thing I wanted to show you in this video was something I think probably most of you will want to get to know a little bit. And that is the use of these modifiers. So in order to get to this menu, and what this is doing is it's basically taking how you play as an input to modify one of these controls. And you'll notice that in some of these knobs right here, there's a little dot. Those can all be adjusted by modifiers. So right now the frequency in my filter is being modified on a low pass. In order to get to this, you just right click. And then I have my modifier, an envelope follower. So when you come in here and you go to the source number 1, you can choose your different modifiers. And you can have an expression pedal, or a control switch, or a sequencer, a pitch follower, or another LFO perhaps. And you can tinker with these as you will. I'll have another video based on this stuff. I just want to show you the envelope follower for now, because the envelope follower basically follows the amplitude of your signal, and it modifies the frequency based on the amplitude or the frequency content. All right, let's give that a whack. So I mean, instead of that's used for. It's hella fun. And all you have to do is take a low pass, second order, set your frequency somewhere in this range with a Q, depending on how much you want that to be emphasized. This changes quite a bit, so you can see. But usually you don't want it that high. You just want a little bit, maybe like 1.7-ish. And that's kind of what that does. And then when you come in here, this envelope follower, you can see what's going on with the curve, okay? Take a look at that. And so inside here, you can kind of dictate how this curve looks and what's going on. I recommend just tinkering around with it. Once again, I'll have another video completely related to this, but if you want to get your feet wet before then, I recommend doing so. It's an awesome way to kind of get to know the software, especially because this can be applied to any module in the software. Boom! Little knowledge bits getting blasted at you. So that's it for this video. If there's any question about what's going on, oh snap, I actually didn't tell you what's going on over here. So rate how fast this is going to be modulating. So in here I have this the rate, you can set this back and forth. The duty cycle is telling you how defined this back and forth is going to be, or how much of this basically how much of that oscillation is it actually utilizing. So if I do a sine, this is going to be a very well defined sine wave. As you drop the duty cycle, it becomes less. You can see it's a little bit more choppy, but as you increase this again, it has more fidelity. If you quantize, it basically breaks up this this sine wave or whatever type of shape you have into bits or into pieces. So if you have 2, boom, boom. Now it's more like a square wave. 3, now you got 3. And as you go up, it just creates more and more stopping points for where it samples on this thing, basically. As you go up, the more and more, has higher fidelity. So that's what that does. And then quantize off just means it's going to do it exactly the way you have it. Mod frequency means how far is this going to be fluctuating for, or how much beyond the frequency point right here, where it goes at its lowest, is it pushing past. So obviously the further you push it, the further out it goes. That's what that does. And then left pan, right pan, you kind of know what that does. Phase inversions, you know what that does. Is already phase inverting any of the signal. So that's really it. That is all I'm going to tell you for now. I think I've pretty much covered the entirety of this mod. It's not that big, but it does have a lot to it. This filter is incredibly complex. And remember, you can always stack these suckers right in a row. So if I wanted to do that, I could be like... Till the next time, I'll catch you guys on the flippy floppy. Ciao for now, y'all.